He's been an award-winning media personality and producer. As a speaker, he's empowered over 1 million people from the stage. Now one of the leading business coaches and brand experts is taking over the world of on-demand audio. It's the Business Bully Podcast. Now here's the business bully himself, Dave Anderson.
Yeah. What up, people? Welcome to Business Bully Podcast. I'm trying to give you as much content. We gonna be contented out. My goodness, I am on the road, rocking and rolling, man. Shout out to everybody over at iHeart in Chicago. I just did the morning show, the morning takeover with Kyle Santillan, Leon, and of course my homegirl Kendra G. Me and Kyle have a Philly connection because he's from the other side of the bridge. He's from Jersey. And then Kendra I knew ages ago because I wanted to hire her when I was programming in Austin, but that's a story for another day. Business Bully Podcast is being brought to you by Audible with over 180,000 titles to choose from. Audible has something for your mind, your body, and your business. So make sure you head over there right now. Get your free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/bully. Now, I want to talk to you about a couple things real quick, right? Because I really, this is a show I've been itching to do for a very long time, but before I even get to that, I got to talk about some behavior I see. And shout out to everybody who has been checking me out. Shout out to the people out in Saginaw. There's a place called, I think it's HD Supplies. They've really been checking me out. So shout out to y'all. I definitely appreciate it, man. And thank you so much for all of the, as my good friend Khaled would say, all the fan love. We the best. All the fan love is crazy. The fan love. What I want to do is, as always, I promise that if you actually get on and leave a review, I will read those reviews. So I definitely want to do that. And I've gotten some really good reviews as of late. If you go to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review, I will definitely read those reviews because I think it's important to check out those reviews and, see what folks have been saying. So let's see here. Boot up. Boot up. All right, so let's see. I will start. I got some reviews popping here lately. I got like 4 of them, so we're gonna run through them. They all 5 stars. I haven't had a review less than 5 stars, and I do appreciate that. So big love to y'all for that. I definitely appreciate y'all. Give y'all the biggest claps right now. Yes. Yeah. All right. So listen, first review says, Death of the Call Center Mindset. I not only got a chance to meet Dave, but I was able to build with him this past Friday. Besides the wealth of knowledge and game he gave me, I was able to thank him for changing my life. He released an episode a couple of years ago about his experience working in a call center and having to wash up in a gas station bathroom. While it never got to that point of me having to wash up in a gas station bathroom, the call center woes spoke to me because I felt trapped while working at the call center around that time. I felt trapped and stuck in that call center job. I felt like I was not only wasting my time and potential, but there were people in the future depending on me. I can't thank Dave enough for not only recording that episode, but giving me the confidence to start my transition out of the call center. Thank you, brother, for your authentic words and advice. And that's from Brent. Brent, thank you so much for the review. I definitely appreciate it. And yeah, man, call centers, that can be hell, man. I swear, one day, once I kind of settle down, make a few million, I'm definitely going to start doing cause I got a million ideas for comedies and movies and shit. Cause there's a lot of shit y'all don't see that is just hilarity. If you only knew what was happening on the other side of that phone at a call center, it'll change your whole life. So I got another review here. This one is from Clayton and it says, I didn't even know I needed the Business Bully Podcast in my life until I stumbled upon it today. It's a fresh take on business, entrepreneurship, and self-worth from someone who's actually been successful in business and broadcasting. It doesn't hurt that he provides a much-needed voice for Black entrepreneurs in a space that doesn't always cater to us. Keep it up. Peyton Clayton, I appreciate that. I'm going to keep it real with you. It's hard. It is very, very hard because a lot of people don't understand what it is to be a Black entrepreneur in this space, because everybody gives you the side eye. Everybody always thinks that you're less than. There's always some nonsense. And while I don't get caught up in people's thoughts, I do have to really overcome a lot of objections that other people who don't have my particular pedigree don't have to deal with. So another review says, no contest, the best business podcast, period. It's from Jay Williams. Dave, I've listened to almost every single episode of your podcast, and I want to say thank you for coming with the fresh content and sometimes unconventional but very effective approach to business. I have a tremendous amount of respect and appreciation for you and your work. Keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate that, Jay Williams. It means a lot. And, you know, I'm just trying to make it easy for folks, man, and just give people a platform and give them a voice so they can feel like they're doing something. All right. So last one I'm going to read today, because I'm not going to be sitting up here, you know, reading all these reviews, but I promise y'all that I'm going to start reading these 5-star reviews as y'all put them up. So this one says, thank God, in caps, that I've been bullied. I started following Dave on Facebook about a month ago. Why? I have no idea, but his live videos are real and hilarious. Y'all make sure y'all checking out my live videos too, facebook.com/thebusinessbully, but I'll read on. So one day I stumbled across the podcast with Van from TMZ. It was dope and I decided to check out his podcast. OMG. It's been a wonderful past 4 days, and yes, I'm a punk with your punk ass. I'll be telling people all the time, just cop to your punk acidness and the healing can begin. I've done so many wonderful things in the past that I've laid dormant and have had a difficulty resurrecting. Well, I'm grateful to have been bullied by Dave because I needed the heat from this podcast. Oh, you gonna get this work. He's real and he gives so much content for free. I can only imagine what's to come once I start paying him. See, there's somebody who understands the value of the chant. Ooh, I love those kind of people. Thank you, Dave, for being selfless, which eliminates frustration when trying to figure out pieces to the puzzle. Signed, Tiff. Tiffany, I definitely appreciate it. For me, it's a situation where no one was giving me answers. I had to figure out a whole lot of stuff, and there were very few people who were trying to light a path or give me an example. I didn't have a Dave Anderson. Like, Damon John was out, but when I was coming up, like when I really started doing it, Damon John wasn't really in the picture. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was around, but he kind of fell off, and you know what I'm saying? Like, different things happened, but I didn't really have that kind of example, whereas I could say, yo, that's the dude that, you know, I can get some answers from, you know, and I want to be as transparent as possible and show you that this situation is real. So, having said that, I wanted to take some time today, and I'm calling this episode Business Lessons I Learned from My Mother. Now, for those of you who don't know, like, my origin story, for lack of a better term, I feel like a superhero when I say that. Hopefully Thanos won't snap his fingers. But my parents, like, one of my earliest memories is the day my brother woke me up to tell me my parents were getting divorced. I was 3 years old. And I remember just like being devastated, you know, because first I'd see my brother look devastated, and I remember being devastated, and I saw my mom at the bottom of the steps, and I remember running to her, and I remember her holding me in her arms, and I'm crying, and I only remember what words I said, but I do know that she told me everything was going to be okay. And what made me so upset, you know, and still kind of upsets me to this day, and I'm 40, you know, so this is 37 years ago, is that I know my parents really loved each other, and I think that maybe they could have made it work if they tried a little bit harder, if someone was willing to give. But that moment is probably the reason that I'm here. Meaning, I'm here, this business bully thing, speaking all over the world, best-selling books. If I have to narrow it down to one moment, it was that moment, because if my parents never got divorced, I'd probably be in some, you know, teeny tiny little white suburb in central Pennsylvania. You'd have never heard of me. And I probably would have just worked a regular everyday ass gig and done regular everyday ass shit and go to work every day wearing a suit and tie, being a regular bitch ass, punk ass sucker to the game. And I'm blessed because that thing happened. And I think people forget that out of tragedy comes triumph. And, you know, my parents, man, they love me so much. God rest my father's soul. But my dad loved the hell out of me, and my mother still loves the hell out of me, and my brother. And it was hard, but I learned so much. Like, I think, you know, like, my dad was a naturally tough dude, but my mother just has a resilience that I can't even put into words. Like, I remember one time something happened, and I mean, it was bad. I don't even remember what it was. My mom just kind of, you know, she kind of just, you know, she squared her shoulders up, you know, gritted her teeth a little bit and said, well, A man's got to do what a man's got to do, and so do I, damn it. And she just, you know what I mean? She strapped up. She booted and rallied. You know, a lot of y'all don't boot and rally. Y'all look at a situation and you crumble at it. My mom looked at the situation and she had a whole lot of fuck it in her system. You know, and I think that's what I think that's where I get it from, you know. And my mom is, you know, because my mother's still very much alive. Thank you, God. My mom is extremely resilient. She's very quick. She's super smart. And I remember once Les Brown saying, you have to hold on to somebody's belief in you until your belief kicks in. I didn't have self-esteem. You know, I just didn't. I didn't think, you know, I was always the last to get picked for games. You know, I was pretty much a bookworm. I was shy. I was awkward. I'm still very shy and very awkward. When I'm at home, like, people don't believe me. Like, think about it. The only time you really see me out is like I'm walking my dog, or I'm on my way to a speaking engagement, or I'm leaving a speaking engagement. You know, like, I'm kind of a homebody. You know, this is me. Like, everything that you see and hear from me is authentically me, but it's one aspect of me, and it's not the dominant aspect of me. The dominant aspect of me likes to be home, is very introspective, is very introverted, and a lot of people don't know that. I also got that from my mom, and I'm telling you all this before I get into these business lessons because I need you to understand why this is so ill. So I used to resent my mom a lot because my mom would push me so hard about every little thing, and I would never understand it. And she'd always say, Dave, beat a task, great or small, do it right or not at all. You know, and I mean everything. I don't care if it was scrubbing the baseboards or singing backgrounds for Teddy Pendergrass. My mom had this thing where she wanted me to be the best. And I used to be like, damn, like, why are you so hard on me? And I remember one day I talked to my Aunt Gigi. My Aunt Gigi was like, you just don't get it, do you? And I'm like, no, I don't get it. Like, why me? You know, and she was like, this is what you don't know about your mom. When your mom was young, you know, your mom was very shy. She didn't speak up in class. She kind of just, you know, laid back. She was really, really shy. You know, she tried to join a sorority. They gave her the brown paper bag test. Your mother had extremely long hair. They thought that, you know, she had weave. Like, your mother was tortured and tormented and disrespected and downtrodden, a whole lot of stuff. And I think a lot of times she wanted better for you and your brother. Now, your brother's a social butterfly. You weren't. You know, you're kind of an antisocial kid. And so she wanted you, you know, to be assertive and to go after your dreams. And if you said that you wanted it, she was going to make sure you got it. And if that means having to break your back in order for you to get what it is that you said that you want out of life, she was going to be damned if you didn't get it. So the woman you see today is not the woman I grew up with. The woman you see today was someone who took a lot of practice effort to get out of her own way and become, you know, the person that was strong enough to be your mother to you and your brother. And I was like, damn. Like, to picture my mom as somebody who was shy and not assertive and not strong was like, it was mind boggling. It's like finding out your parents are spies or some shit. Like, it was just like, huh? You know, and it just kind of gave me an insight as to why my mom pushed the way that she pushed. And so as I moved through life, because I started my career at 9 years old, as I moved through life, there were certain things that in hindsight now at the ripe old age of almost 41, I can look at and say, yo, you know, these are the things that I learned from my mom. And so I'm going to kind of go through some things and, you know, kind of break them down for you. So the first lesson I learned from my mom in business is to say yes to yourself. My mom once told me that life's not a dress rehearsal, and happiness above all else is the greatest gift anyone can give to themselves. You know, so you got to say yes to new experiences, to travel and try and build and do new vocations and meet new people. And you just never know where your next blessing is going to come from. But you miss so much by saying no to life, by cutting yourself off from opportunities and from growth experiences and even from your own pain. A lot of us numb our own pain instead of feeling it and then adapting. And so I say yes to myself, because what winds up happening is you become a martyr. You become a martyr to yourself. You become a martyr to society. You become a martyr to what you think everybody thinks you should be. And you just need to learn how to say yes to yourself. So, and these lessons aren't in any particular order. These are just things that, I kind of jotted down that come to me when I think about the lessons I've learned watching my mom, not only as a mother, but as a businesswoman. One of my favorites is, if you're going in the wrong direction, just simply turn around. I talked about how, my parents' divorce was my strongest first memory. And I remember my mom had this look of determination on her. And, I asked her, later on in life, what the determination was for. And she said that she needed, that she knew she needed something better for herself, and she needed something better for her two sons. And that's no shade to my dad. My dad was a great dad, but she knew good and hell well that we weren't going to be all that we could be by living in rural America. And a funny thing is, my mom and father never remarried. My mother never changed her last name. And I know that both my parents still loved each other. But, it's crazy. It does sometimes. Your situation is bigger than love. Sometimes you'll love something, but you got to let it go. I was recently presented with an opportunity to hop back in radio full time. And I was like, yeah, it'd be cool. Da, 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 da. And then something happened. And I was like, you know what? I've come to a realization. When God closes a door, that's not the time you go hiring a locksmith to go pick in that door. You need to move on to the next thing. And sometimes, as painful as it is, I see a lot of folks, like every year, they're still going to their college homecoming because that was their highlight reel. That's where they're stuck. Their mind is stuck in college. They're stuck in partying and, sororities and fraternities and shit like that. And I'm not knocking it, but what I'm saying is, if you're still on that college shit, you never really had the time to go pro. It's levels. And sometimes you can't go backwards. And so sometimes you have to get rid of those things that aren't serving you. And I learned that, by watching my mom. She understood that she had to do something. And, if something's not serving you, it's time to go. And I don't think anybody understood that concept better than my mom, and very, very early on. Another lesson I learned from my mom, in business, is to not follow the trends, but to create your own damn trends. In the 80s, my mom created what you now know as the immersive salon experience, and she was doing this in her customers before it became the standard. Like, this was something that, wasn't done before. My mom had luxury couches and music and champagne for her clients. She never had anybody waiting longer than 30 minutes past their appointment time. Even if she did, she had their nails done, things of that nature. If they couldn't afford to pay or something happened, she'd give them credit, and nobody ever stiffed my mom. Nobody ever stiffed my mom. I remember one time this girl had gotten her hair done for the prom, and she gotten so excited, and she was so blown away by her hairstyle and her nails and the way she looked that she had forgotten to pay, and everybody got just so wrapped up in the excitement. And the next day she got her money. Like, wasn't nobody sweating it, because everybody did right by my mom, because my mom did right by everybody, and my mom would give folks credit in a heartbeat. It was more than hairs and nails. It became an experience. It became a place that you wanted to go. My mother created tribe building way before there was an internet. My mother understood the importance of people and giving people experiences. When I was a kid, I remember we used to be broken and we couldn't go everywhere. My mom would take us down to the park with like an old loaf of bread that had like maybe 3 or 4 slices. We just got a new loaf of bread. So we take the 3 or 4 slices, we go down to the park, and there'd be these little ducks. There'd be a pond, and there'd be these little ducks, and we sit there and we feed the ducks. I remember that. I don't remember being poor. Like, I remember certain aspects of not having money, but I don't ever remember being like feeling poor. Like, I never felt like little orphan Annie or no shit like that. And that's because my mother created a memory. Like, she made me feel that everything was epic, And I remember one day I woke up and I was getting ready for school. And she was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Getting ready for school." She's like, No, we're not going to school today. Take that off. Go put this on. And literally my mother, who was a stickler for education. My mother is, in fact, an educator. She was like, "We're going to Sesame Place." And I couldn't, if I was in second grade, I was a day. And I remember she was like, "We're playing hooky today." And my mom wrote a note saying that I had to stay home because I was getting my eyes dilated and I had to see the eye doctor, whatever the case may be. And I was rocking and rolling with Big Bird and shit. Like, moments, memories, like those are the things I remember. I remember, I'd be in a school play and looking out in the audience and my mom was there. Like, she made sure that she showed up no matter the fact that she was working 2 gigs and creating things to make sure that she was feeding these 2 linebackers she called sons. That to me was important, like being a trendsetter, but still, taking things in. Now, I can tell you that my mom is the ultimate showman. Like, my mom is, Oprah Winfrey and P.T. Barnum had a baby. Like, my mom is she was always like, Dave, razzle dazzle him, like, be creative. Don't be afraid to stick out. Like, that was her whole thing. Like, I never wanted to stick out. And then I realized that that's my strength, sticking out. And I'll give you some examples. Like, all of my showmanship, like, I learned all my showmanship from my mom. Like, more than anybody, like more than Ric Flair, more than The Rock, I learned how to be the person you now know as a business bully by learning from my mom. Like, in high school, I ran for senior class president. I wasn't the most popular kid. I wasn't the star athlete or nothing, but I was smart and my mom was creative. So she comes home, right? And she's like, yo, I went to the store. I got these lollipops. I'm like, what are we going to do with lollipops? She's like, we're going to make some labels. I was like, labels? She was like, yeah. So she takes like some craft tape. And then on each of these pieces of craft tape, she wraps them around a lollipop. And it says, don't be a sucker, vote for Dave. And she bought enough for the entire senior class. So we stayed up all night making these lollipops that said, don't be a sucker, vote for Dave. It's like, yo, if you don't vote for Dave, you a sucker. And I won by a landslide. They couldn't even believe it. And I had that, and I had the 5-point plan. I had flyers written up. Like, I had promotional pictures. Like, we went in, and I won because I was doing more than what the average dick was doing, and for some people, oh, it's just a high school election. But for me, it was a moment because I realized if I became president, then I can make the changes I wanted to see. And the only way for me to do that was to just razzle dazzle everybody. So I had a 5-point plan. I went to every single senior class. I bust up in there, be like, oh, excuse me, teacher person. Look, I got to get these out. So I'm giving don't be a sucker, vote for Dave. Every person, don't be a sucker, vote for Dave. Like, and it was that kind of stuff that kept me winning. If I had a book report when I was a kid, my mom would make me take every page of that book report. I'd have to go and run off copies of pictures and whatnot, way before the internet. And then I would mount each page of my book report on a construction paper. And then I would pin them with these gold, like, tack buttons. So, like, when everybody else is turning their reports in regular loose leaf paper or they had it typed up on the computer, my thing stuck out like a sore thumb. I always got an A because not only was I smart, but my presentation was dope. Like, think about when you go to a 5-star restaurant, you look like the food may be dope, but what's really dope is the presentation. There's like not a smudge on the plate. Everything is beautifully set. Like if you watch these TV food competition shows, so much emphasis is put on presentation, and I learned that from my mom, so, it was one of those things, man. Like, no matter what I did, my mom would find a way to force me to make a spectacle so that would always be remembered. So sometimes, when you look up and you realize that you see me on international stages and you see that I have best-selling books and to be the person you admire and or hate, putting on a show means that you're doing something that's different than what they are and you're sticking out and you're going an extra mile. And I learned all that from my mom, and I couldn't, like, the other thing about my mom, and I think that this, I would say this is probably the most important lesson, no excuses, just results. My mom didn't really tolerate a whole bunch of excuses. It's like, yo, well, what happened? Oh, it was an accident. Oh, see right there, that's where you messed up. I'm like, what you mean? Well, accidents don't happen, they are caused. And I was like, damn. Like, that hit me like, yo, accidents don't happen. They're caused. If you get into a car accident, there's a cause for that. And I mean, barring act of God, of course. But, even then, are you able to avoid some things? Did you do everything you can to prepare? Did you wear your seatbelt? Did you do there was no room for that. I lived in a results driven household, and I lived in a household that was filled with love, but I had standards. And I think what winds up happening with most people is I have such a high standard for myself that I will pull something back if I don't feel like it's right. I can say, hey, this book is coming out next month, and I can have it sitting right here ready to go. And if I don't feel like it's right, I'm going to hold it until it is. I'm going to edit it until it is. I'm going to write what I need to write until it is, because no excuses, just results. And it's so important, man. Like, I don't think we really push ourselves to the way that we need to reach our full potential, to really get to peak performance, because we're told that it's okay. We live in this participation trophy era where everybody just gets something for winning. Like, how you get a Super Bowl ring and you ain't take one snap. Like, that's not how that works. At least that's not how it should work. But like Lincoln said, man, all that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother. I'm very, very lucky in that way. And one other bonus lesson I got from my mom: money doesn't matter, you do. And when I say that, it's a dual thing. Like, when I was homeless, it was my creativity that got me out. I got in the LA Times while being homeless, and not for being homeless. It was what was inside of me, not what was inside of my bank account. And sometimes we get so caught up in the amount of zeros in our bank account that we miss out on the account of the greatness that's inside of us. And as a result, we don't play full out. We don't do those things in the way that we could in order to get shit popping. And my mom used to tell me, like, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It matters how much creativity you have. You got to learn to be creative. My mom, just when I tell you, like, if you ever, like, even Gary Vee, like, I was talking to him, and we both were talking about how our moms just gave us this amazing sense of self. Like, oh, they're nothing. They, those people, they got something to say. Who cares what they say? Fuck them, because they'll never be shit. And, I didn't believe that. I really never believed that until I remember flying home. And I rented the Chrysler 300. And when I say flying home, I was flying to Philly. I was doing radio at the time. I just signed like one of the biggest contracts in my radio career at that point. And I had rented a Chrysler 300. It's brand new. It just came out. So this is, early mid 2000s. And I was hungry because I didn't really eat anything on the plane. It wasn't that kind of flight where they had like a meal, but I really hadn't eaten because I don't like to eat when I travel because the flying makes me woozy. But anyway, and anyhow, I was like, you know what? I got a craving for a Big Mac or a quarter pounder, whatever the hell it was. But I knew I wanted me a burger from McDonald's, and there was a McDonald's not too far from my grandmother's house where I knew my family was waiting to see me. So I drive through the McDonald's, guy like, we're on McDonald's, can I take your order? And I'm like, yeah, let me get a number 3. You want to supersize that? Yeah, go ahead. Give it to me with an orange drink. All right, just $3.25, whatever the hell the total was. I go to the window. And when I was in elementary school, there was this kid, and this kid teased me from elementary school all the way through middle school. He's just a pain in my ass. I fought him 1,000,001 times. He's just a douchebag of an individual. And I get to picking up my food, and I'm not paying any attention, and all of a sudden I hear, oh, shit. Now, I'm like not paying attention. I'm listening to Purple Ribbon. If you ain't never heard Purple Ribbon, it's Big Boy side project. Had Janelle Monáe on it. It was dope. He had this song called Kryptonite with Killer Mike. It's crazy. So anyway, anyhow, I look up, and it's the same dude that tortured me from the time I was in elementary school to the time I was in middle school. He'd be like, hey, man, I always knew you was going to make it. I always knew you was going to be somebody. And I was like, no, you didn't. But thanks, man. Good to see you. And I pulled off. And it was at that moment that I realized, above all else, you're not always going to understand why things happen. But there will come moments where your time will come. And your time in the sun is going to be so bright that people got to see it. Even your detractors, even your haters, even the people who didn't believe in you or didn't understand your mission, they will all have to, I don't want to say bow down, but I will say they have to acknowledge your greatness. And I mean, even that's biblical. Joseph had a dream that his brothers would have to bow before him, and, they would need to lean on him, and they buried him and sold him into slavery. Like, they buried his coat, sold him into slavery. And then sure enough, when that famine hit, who they had to come see? They didn't realize it was Joseph, but that's what it was. They didn't know all the things that Joseph had been through, but that's what it was. So when my mom used to tell me that, these people got all this to say, but one day you're going to have your time. You are going to have your time. And now more than ever, I feel like my time was now. Now, that wasn't, like a crowning achievement, but it was a moment that made me realize that, like, I'm on the right track. I got to keep focusing on me. The naysayers, the consumers, the spectators, the people in the audience getting their nachos coming to watch the show, they're not as important as the producers, the cultivators, the talents, the people on the stage. And I'm on stages all over the world, baby. And I owe that to my mom. Not taking anything away from my dad, not taking anything away from my brother, not taking away from my wife and kids. But I owe that to my mom, because if I told my mom I wanted to do something, the one thing she would not let me do is waver. She would not let me give up, and I'm telling you, you can't give up. You can't be no punk ass. The world does not reward punk ass bitches. I know it seems like it does. Look at Kanye West, but I'm telling you, the world does not reward punk ass bitches. The world rewards massive, decisive, consistent action. Massive, decisive, consistent action. Massive, decisive, consistent action. And you have to do that over and over and over again, because that's where your wealth comes from. That's where your breakthrough comes from. That's where your time comes from. And so, this is a short episode. I wasn't trying to be here all day. But, even as a Mother's Day tribute, or just as something that I felt was important, because people ask me, well, how do you do it? And I'm going to tell you, a lot of it's my mom. Like that foundation she laid was something serious. Because I got standards, and my standards are high. That's why sometimes I blow through assistants or team members, because I got standards. And if you can't live up to them, well, then, boop, la ti and da, toodaloo. Because what you ain't going to do is put yourself in a situation where I'm fucked up because you can't keep up. You feel me? So, yeah, those are business lessons I learned from my mom. I hope that, that inspired you, gave you something to think about. Give me feedback, Dave@businessbullyshow.com. As always, I'll check y'all out later. Get out of your feelings and into your business. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Want free business and marketing tips from Dave? Text Business Bully to 31996. That's Business Bully to 31996. Standard data and text message rates apply.